Good evening, dear brothers and sisters. Today's gospel about the healing of a leper reminds me of someone who shared to me recently about the grace that COVID-19 has brought into his life, how it made him rediscover the gift of solitude and prayer. It seems obvious at the outset why he found himself in solitude when he tested COVID positive. Of course, he was required to go into self-isolation. But he said, ironically, his quarantine experience did not immediately lead him to solitude. And you know why? Because he held on to his cellular phone. He did not stop doing research in the web about COVID-19, what it does to the human body, how to manage the symptoms, how to help in contact tracing, what vitamin supplements to take in order to strengthen his immune system, etc., etc. He said, the more he learned about COVID-19, the more anxious he became. He kept checking on his body temperature, his oxygen level, his sense of smell and taste every day. And before long, he could not even sleep anymore. And so what he did was he binged on Netflix. In between, he kept posting about his condition on Facebook and kept getting messages from people who wanted to know what he was doing, how he was doing, and who each had 100 suggestions on how to manage symptoms based on their own research. He kept asking for prayers for healing, but he never prayed himself. He just found himself practically hooked on his cell phone 24/7, sleepless, anxious, paranoid, and mentally fatigued by an overload of information. One night, sabi niya, he was unable to sleep and feeling again the onslaught of an anxiety attack. And you know, he found himself calling to God desperately and begging for mercy. Using the exact word of the leper to Jesus in today's gospel, he said in his prayer, Lord, if you will to do so, you can heal me. And he said that the answer that he heard in his mind was, I do will it, but do you will it yourself? The moment he said yes, the follow-up message from God was, your cell phone. Turn off all the ideas that keep playing in your mind about COVID-19. Turn off all the anxieties that are making you sleepless. And he did. He started praying the rosary again, lying in his bed. And before he could even finish the rosary, he fell asleep without setting his phone alarm. He woke up very refreshed. He wanted to check the time with his cell phone, but he realized that his phone was discharged already, and he decided not to recharge it. And that's when he said he really found himself going into solitude. Not the solitude of isolation, but the solitude of communion with God in prayer. It made him write a spiritual journal again, with each entry in his journal starting with the words, Dear Lord. He opened the Bible diary somebody had given him for Christmas, and he found himself reflecting on the readings for the day and wanting to attend Mass again. Since he could not attend Mass physically, he recharged his cell phone, but only to attend Mass online. The days passed and his quarantine was soon over. But he said, from then on, he developed the habit of assigning only 30 minutes of his day, 15 minutes in the mid-morning and 15 minutes in the later afternoon to open his cell phone to check on his messages, his emails, his notifications in the social media. And he even set his alarm to make sure that he kept to his 15-minute discipline. The discipline had made him more concentrated in his job. It gave him more time with his family. It allowed him to productively use the rest of his time. He also found the opportunity again to sort out his clothes, his books, his notes, and his personal effects following the Marie Kondo Japanese method, in effect, giving away many things that he did not need. He found time even to do gardening, to do brisk walking, basking in the early morning sunlight, reading books, especially about society and history, listening to music, cooking, praying, and writing his spiritual journal, and reconnecting with his friends. You know, he said he looked back and realized what a blessing his COVID-19 experience had been to him, how it liberated him from his addictions, how it freed him from his fears and anxieties, how his negative solitude of isolation led him to rediscover the more positive solitude of spiritual communion with God, with himself, and with the people whom he loved.